Okay then, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually show you how to use paths and Bezier type curves to actually create a kind of a hung curtain effect, complete with textures as well to make it look like a real curtain. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to head up here and I'm going to actually start out by adding a path. Now this path is going to form the basis of my curtain. This is the reason I'm choosing this is because it always starts off nice and straight. So I'm just going to get the end, I'm going to G and then X to extend it. I just want it a bit longer, that's all. Okay, out with there and then with tab and then curve and then I'm going to put a Bezier on. And then I'm just going to move that out of the way with G and Y. Okay, moving on from there. What I need to do is I need to actually now apply the Bezier to my path. So head over to its data tab, find its geometry, find its beveling, object, and assign the Bezier. Now what's happened is it's taken the shape of this, which is currently like this arc, and it's applied it to the actual path. If I tab into the path though, you can still see that it's as tall as my actual path itself. If I moved parts of the path around with G, you can see the bevel will still maintain the same shape even when the curve itself, the path, changes. I'm going to keep it nice and straight for now because of what I'm doing, but it's just so that you're aware that you can actually modify that. Okay, to make my life easier as well, I'm just going to rotate my Bezier, minus 90 I think. Nope, not minus 90. Hang on, it's going to be one of these. I need to look at it straight on, don't I, so I know what's happening here. Okay, so I need to basically just make it stand up on the, there we go, 90, there we go. I just wanted to be looking at it like that so I can actually see the curvature against my path. Now let's get onto the Bezier, let's press tab and let's change this completely because I want it to come across as more of a pleated effect, so basically waving up and down. I'm going to delete that for now because I don't like those vertices. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some new ones completely using my curve pen. I'm going to look perfectly straight on, making sure that I'm actually looking in the right place as well. I'm just going to draw this out. I'm terrible at hand drawing without my drawing pad. I'm going to admit that right now. I'm just going to have to tell you that I'm really bad using my mouse for this. Life would be so much easier if I just got my sketch pad out, wouldn't it? There we go. Okay, that'll do. I don't need it to look at anything particularly fancy, but as you can see, after I've drawn that out, I have now got a kind of wave effect within my path. GUI, just to move this out of the way a bit. I can tidy that up, but right now it's not essential that this be perfect. My intention is to basically get some waves on what will be my curtain. Okay, moving on from there, let's head back over to our actual main NURBS path and tab into it. Now you can see that the actual line of control is still over here. If we were to basically head back over to our Bezier, go into here, and then just kind of play around with it a little bit. You should be able to see that our kind of point of origin is over here. If we apply all transforms, no, not apply all transforms, that's not what I wanted to do, set origin, sorry, to geometry, that kind of moves the origin point so that when I click back into here, now my origin point, basically where my path is, will always follow the origin point of this over here. Now, I actually do prefer it over here for what I'm about to do because I want to get the feeling that this curtain has been tied basically tied up and pulled to the side. So I'm actually going to go back over here. I'm going to view this whole thing from the top for a second. I'm going to get my cursor. I'm just going to plop it about here, and then set the origin to the 3D cursor. There we go, and I've moved it along a bit nicely. And now you can see that my that my curtain now has a kind of an origin point off towards the left of it. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to make sure I'm in edit mode in my curtain, like so you can tell because you can see these. And I'm just going to move this one a little bit up, so G and Z, X even to pull that up, and G and X to pull this one up a little bit. Next thing I want to do is I actually want to use the radius here, so I want to kind of tighten everything up and pull it in. The only problem is if I use this one, it's not a big area to work with and it's very difficult to control. So I find it easier to press Alt and S, and that gives me a lot more flexibility and a lot more distance to deal with. I can also press O and get a bit of proportional editing, and I find that actually helps out as well. It makes it a bit easier to control again, to do what I want. Now in this case, I want to kind of pull it inwards to get that impression that it's been basically bound up somewhere. And there we go. What we've got now is we've got that nice curvature going on. Now you can see I've got a nice sweeping curve here as if it's been pulled, and a nice sweeping curve here if it's been pulled. However, what you might be thinking is, my goodness, yeah, okay, you know what? It's actually kind of not a bad curtain. It actually works. A lot easier to deal with than doing it in 3D, using a plane, wobbling it and waving it, and then trying to, sharpen it inwards. But what about texturing? Is this not going to be an absolute nightmare to UV wrap? And I got some good news. Actually, it genuinely isn't that bad if you just want, I suppose like for a basic scene, you don't want to stress yourself out. And in order to do that, let's just head over here to our material slot. I'm just going to add a new material. Z, and look at the material preview so you can see it. So for a generic material, so if you just want a set of blue curtains, there we go, it's nice and simple. But what if you want something better looking than that? Well, we can do that as well. What we can do is we can change it to an image. And then I'm just going to go grab something that I downloaded before, which is this here. Now, I'll just show you this image so you can kind of line it up next to each other and see. So there's what we're looking at. Currently, it's on its side. But what we have got is a kind of, it's naturally falling into the crevices. And you can see it's kind of doing what I want it to do. So what's going on here? Well, this is all about the way that UV mapping works. So if I go into UV editing here, and there's my image. Now I opened this up a little earlier on just to see if this worked, but if yours will probably show a blank at the moment like this. All I'll do, image, open, find my image from my downloads, and there we go, it pops it on here. Okay, now what I'm going to do as well is I'm just going to head over here and have a look at my, change my angle so it's a bit better. Right, have a look at my curtain here. So you can see that it's all kind of nicely laid out, and the only problem is though you can't really UV unwrap this to fix it up, for want of a better word. Unfortunately, it just doesn't really have that option. So what do we do now? How do we fix this texture so it isn't kind of basically pointing the wrong way? Well, now that we got the shape of our curtain how we want it, what we can do is we can click on it, and then we can go Object, Apply Visual Geometry to Mesh. To Object. Okay, I'm going to hide the original one, and then I've got my completed version here, and you can see complete with all of its meshing and everything else, and distorted kind of squares. If I press A, you'll see that it's kind of mapped it out as perfect squares by default. Now normally that is really terrible for doing good textures, in a sense that if you wanted certain, like if you were doing a tree or something like that, this would make a terrible way to do textures. Things would be distorted, out of place, stretched, twisted. It would just look weird. But in this case, what's actually happening is, because we've got a perfect set of, well, rectangles in this case, on a perfectly flat plane, as these are all being distorted, it's kind of naturally bending the texture into the right place. Now what I'm going to do is, I believe that I just need to now rotate these 90 degrees. Make sure I've done that perfectly 90. Ooh. That's if I would get this right first time. Yeah, minus 90, and I'm pretty certain that when I head back over here and press A, press tab even, there we go, it's actually started getting them the right way around now, so my actual textures are the right way, and you know, it's kind of got that pulling together effect. It's following the correct curves and everything like that. If they look a bit too long, again, just get into tab, all, and then just kind of play around by scaling and basically working out how to get them kind of exactly how you want. Now, one thing I find quite interesting about this is, no matter, you know, what I do, it keeps repeating the pattern, which is absolutely fantastic. It's what we actually want, isn't it? And it's nicely doing it. So even though my actual pattern is completely going over everything, what we actually have is our lovely, perfect little set of UVs. It should also be repeating on the background, which it is. And there we go. I have got myself, you know, a nice little curtain pattern going on. Ooh. So it's running along. It seems to be pretty much always to scale. It feels like it's naturally hanging. And that's what I've been going for here, basically. I've been trying to get it. So, a bit longer than I want a tutorial, but the reason behind this is I wanted to show you everything up to getting this thing remeshed and UV mapped, so that you can see that if you think things through, it's not that scary. And actually you can create some pretty nice results as a result of it. If I wanted to carry on modifying this, because I decided I want these curtains a bit further in, again, you know, make sure you're proportional editing, but the thing is, it's best to make sure that the shape is done before you remesh it. So make sure that you shape it all up while it's still a path. Make sure you get the pleating right from the Bezier curve, and there we go. That is how we get ourselves a nice curtain. I hope you like that. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next video.